In a remote village there was a dry well. Strangely, a notice stuck on it. The villagers never speak of it. It seems there is some hidden secret inside. The villagers passed by here. Everyone was filled with trepidation. What is going on here? Lai Zongbing graduated from university. So I went to a remote mountainous area to be a volunteer teacher. The villagers were very welcoming. I waited early at the village entrance. This place is really remote. The conditions seem a bit harsh, and they said it was a school. It was just transformed from a dilapidated house. I heard the village chief say that several teachers have come here. They all secretly ran away. Lai Zongbing didn't care, smiling to reassure the village chief, not afraid of hardship. As the two of them reached a well, he felt very confused. There are usually tools by the common well to help draw water, but that well doesn't exist. Take a closer look. It seems like something is still stuck to it. He curiously asked the hurried village chief ahead, "Why is there still a poster on this well?" But the village chief was unwilling to answer. "Just tell them to hurry up and move forward. Take him to the dormitory." Lai Zongbing had no choice but to follow the village chief. Arrived at his dormitory, although the place is a bit shabby, but it can be seen that it is newly built. The village chief gave him a few instructions. It seems like something has come to mind. Turned around to remind him, "Never go to that well to draw water. The water from that well is dirty and cannot be used." Lai Zongbing agreed on the surface, but it didn't take it to heart. "Pack up my things." He took the bucket and went to the well to fetch water. He lifted the manhole cover. A rope was removed from the bucket. Filled a full bucket of water. Mentioning the dormitory wash-up for a while. Just fell asleep. Can sleep until midnight. He was awakened by a strange crying sound. Lai Zongbing suddenly sat down. Fumbling, I lit the candle on the bedside. She casually threw on a piece of clothing and walked out. "You can go outside." When I wanted to go back to sleep, the cry resonated once more. He looked towards the sound. But I saw a woman crying by the well during the day. Lai Zongbing walked over. Caring, she asked him what was wrong. But that woman did not pay him any attention. Lai Zongbing thought he hadn't heard. Stepped forward 2 more paces. I patted that woman. This time the woman finally reacted. Stopped crying. Slowly turned his head. Lai Zongbing thought she was a great beauty. Look closely. It almost scared him half to death. All that could be seen was the woman's pale face, still hung with 2 streaks of bloody tears, the dark circles under the eyes. It seems there are high-protein delicacies wriggling above. Looks like a saint. This scared Lai Zongbing quite a bit. I turned and wanted to run, but the woman suddenly stood up. She grabbed his hand in one swift motion, make him unable to move. Lai Zongbing looked down in fear, gasped in shock. The woman's hand was nothing but skeletal white bones. This scene frightened him so much that he screamed, suddenly sat up from the bed. Everything that just happened was a dream. The bedside lamp and the open door reminded him. This dream is just too real, isn't it? Before he sleeps, the door is closed tight. The candle wasn't even lit. Thinking of this, Lai Zongbing suddenly got goosebumps all over his body. He dared not think any further, tiptoeing over quietly. Just want to close the door and keep sleeping. But when he raised his arm to take a look, a black handprint on the arm, it immediately made him furious. At that moment, suddenly, the sound of children's laughter came from outside. Lai Zongbing is no longer timid this time. I must find out for sure who is really pulling the strings. He stepped outside, but did not see the shadow of the child. I am sure it has something to do with that well. He immediately walked towards the well, just took 2 steps, saw a child running past from behind, laughing. But as he turned his head, I turned around but found no one behind me. This is strange. When I turned around, the child appeared by the well, borrowing the faint moonlight. Lai Zongbing finally got a clear look at the child's appearance. It actually looks quite cute, but the face was also deathly pale. Don't be angry. A strange smile still lingered on his face. Just as Lai Zongbing was about to ask him a few questions, the child suddenly jumped into the well. Lai Zongbing shouted loudly, "Hurry and run over. Look down. There are no children in that water." But not long after, a woman's figure emerged from within. "It looks like the one from my dreams." Before he could react, but the woman suddenly turned against him. She lunged at him with both her pens drawn. Suddenly she grabbed his hand, desperately turning towards the well. Lai Zongbing was scared this time. "I can only shout for help at the top of my lungs," holding tightly to the edge of the well. But that woman is really too strong. Just when Lai Zongbing was about to collapse, suddenly someone behind him yanked him hard. He finally felt the strength in his hand loosen. She collapsed onto the ground, feeling utterly exhausted. Looking back, it turned out to be the village chief. The village chief took a look at his appearance. "I'm so angry I can't contain it." Probably very angry and hot. He shouted, pointing at his chest, "Can you not understand what I'm saying? I told you not to go near the well." After shouting, he stormed off angrily. Lai Zongbing knew he was in the wrong, quickly grabbed the village chief who was about to leave. "What is going on here? How could there be a woman in the well?" The village chief saw him as if he were made of dog skin plaster. He let out a sigh and said slowly, "This happened a few years ago. There is a man in the village named Lai Dalang. His wife Kiwihua is pregnant. He was thinking of going to another place to earn some money for baby formula. Let wife Kiwihua take good care of herself at home. Surprisingly, Lai Dalang has been out for several months. Not a penny was brought home. What's even worse is, until his wife gave birth to the child, he didn't come back either. Kiwihua had no choice. Only one person can do some farming, raising a child. The child has grown up, often because there is no father around, mocked by peers. They say he is a wild child. Kiwihua encounters this kind of thing every time. Only tears can wash my face. Even worried about this Lai Dalang. Did something unexpected happen? One day, a distant relative probably ran into her man. I really can't stand it. Run to the village and tell Kiwihua. She said her husband got married again outside. Afraid he won't believe it. I also told him where Lai Dalang is currently living. Kiwihua was unwilling to believe it in her heart. I don't want the child to grow up without a father. Just take the child. I found the neighborhood where Lai Dalang lives. Waited for several days. I just saw Lai Dalang with a woman. They came out of the community chatting and laughing. However, Lai Dalang did not glance at the mother and son. Jing Zhai walked past the empress. Kiwihua refuses to give up. The next day, I came to the entrance of the community to block him again. I want him to come home with me. But this time Lai Dalang was infuriated. He pushed Kiwihua down to the ground with one shove. Let Kiwihua stop looking for him. Otherwise, don't blame him for being rude. Looking at such a heartless man. Kiwihua no longer held any hope. The mother and son returned to their hometown in deep sorrow. A few days passed. He took the child and jumped into the well, committing suicide. From that day on, the teacher from the village came to offer educational support. You can always see their empress. It scared one away in just a few days. Later, I still found someone to handle it. Sealed that well. After that, I never encountered those strange events again. Lai Zongbing finished listening to the village chief. My heart was suddenly filled with mixed emotions. Remembering Lai Dalang at the same time, pitied the fate of this lady. In the end, he stayed. However, I discussed it with the village chief. Moved to a new place. It's just that every time I pass by that well, he will still look at the polar night more. A few years later, the funds were allocated to build a new school. The house had fallen into disrepair due to its age. It has slowly fallen into disrepair, but that well, still trapped there. No one dared to move. The woman's husband has died, but the mother-in-law wouldn't allow him to remarry, to make him guard her for a lifetime, work like an ox, serve like a horse for her. After death, I want to be buried with her son. Let her son have a companion, the girl from the village, Ziogen. She was forced by her parents to marry. In the village, there is a short-lived ghost named Lai Zongping who is a bit of a money grabber. It's said to be about marrying off a daughter. It's pretty much like selling one's daughter. Once married, they never inquire again. But it hasn't been 2 years yet. Ziogen managed to save some money. Her mother-in-law tells everyone. Lai Zongping was killed by Ziogen. They say Ziogen is a harbinger of misfortune. Every day he either hits or scolds her. They treated Ziogen like a servant, making her work tirelessly. She is not even allowed to say a word to another man, especially Lai Ergu, who lives next door. In the blink of an eye, several years have passed. Ziogen became increasingly indifferent and melancholic. There was no longer a smile on her face, but only saw Lai Ergu. Her expression would finally soften. Lai Ergu naturally also likes Ziogen. She used to see Ziogen, but I've never dared to move closer. But now it's different. Her short-lived husband has died. She felt she had another chance. But every time I come into contact with Ziogen, her mother-in-law's venomous gaze, she was about to speak, but held back her words. That night, Lai Ergu cooked 2 dishes at home, preparing to drown my sorrows in alcohol. This morning, she spoke with Ziogen, caught by her mother-in-law. She worries that the old woman will cause some trouble again. Indeed, before long, sounds came from next door. That old woman's voice sounded like a horse's neigh. They say Ziogen is a fox spirit. Everywhere she goes, she seduces men. Truly shameless. Saying this, he moved to strike her down. Lai Ergu listened to the sounds of beating and scolding coming from next door. I can't express how sad I feel. It's also my fault for not being able to control myself. Ziogen was harmed. A few bottles of wine were poisoned. Lai Ergu's tears. It keeps flowing down uncontrollably. She also wanted to run over and rescue Ziogen, taking her away to fly high. But she knows she is not qualified at all. She is still someone else's daughter-in-law, no matter what she says now. And she is also not sure. Does this little Jen want to go with her? Lai Ergu just lay on the table and slept the whole night. The next day, I once again carried a burlap sack. He left with a long face. Lai Ergu usually spends his time farming. They will still visit the families on the mountain, collect some mountain goods to sell in the city. The villagers are quite fond of the young people. After all, there aren't many diligent young people like this. Everyone knows her thoughts. Some have also tried to persuade Ziogen's malicious mother-in-law. She made it possible for the 2 children. We haven't even said a couple of words yet. The old woman chased him out with a broom. From then on, no one dared to speak of it again. In these past few days, Lai Ergu also deliberately avoided passing in front of Ziogen's house, afraid of being seen by her mother-in-law. But that morning, Ziogen had an accident. Her wicked mother-in-law started making a fuss early in the morning. They say Ziogen is such a lazy thing. Why haven't you started cooking so late? The kitchen is cold and the stove is cold. Do you want to starve her? She was so angry that she exploded with rage. The old lady scolded while they went to smash Ziogen's door. Despite knocking repeatedly, no one came to open the door. This time, she was really furious. He jumped up and kicked the door open directly. Just wanted to curse a bit more. But suddenly, he was frozen in place. Little Jen had already died in bed. Next to it was a bottle of sleeping pills. Ziogen died just like that. Learned the short sword at a young age. Ziogen passed away. The old woman was not sad at all. Happily buried Ziogen and her son together. This way, her son will have a companion below too. But things are far from over. 3 days after Zhaozhen's death. Then the incident happened. A woman visiting Zhaozhen's home suddenly ran out of her house screaming. Shaking, they said someone has died. The whole family is dead. The villagers heard this news, hastily rushed over, as everyone entered the courtyard. Then I saw Zhaozhen's younger uncle. Fresh blood was lying on the steps outside the main house. It seems like they want to climb out with all their might. But before he could climb out, he lost his breath. Her face looked as if it had been marked by some animal, deeply scratched, several wounds. One eyeball was also gouged out. It looks very scary. Everyone present are honest and simple villagers. Where have I seen such a spectacle? Immediately, a few timid ones ran to the side and vomited. There are also those who are bold. Carefully avoiding the bloodstains, they entered the house. When I finally saw the scene before me, also gasped in shock, only saw the tragic state of Zhaozhen's younger siblings, sitting on the kitchen floor in a terribly tragic manner. There are no signs of life anymore. Few dared to look more. Hurriedly went to the old lady's room. Strangely enough, the old lady's room had nothing but a pool of blood. The old lady has also disappeared without a trace. Just as everyone was about to exit the room, suddenly they heard a loud noise coming from the room. The hair on several people's bodies stood up all at once. Could it be that something dirty is hidden in the wardrobe? Is it a person or a ghost? It's obvious at a glance. The bravest one. He cautiously stepped forward and opened the wardrobe door. It turns out to be that child, Zhao Xuanzi, from Zhao Zhen's uncle's family. At this moment, he was shivering in the cabinet. The person in front of the wardrobe quickly hugged her out. A few people ran together to the village chief's house. The child finally calmed down. Women who usually have a good relationship with their children cautiously asked what had happened to the child. The child immediately recalled what happened last night. Suddenly, she started crying again in sadness. She said she saw a ghost. It was she who turned into a ghost and killed everyone in the family. Last night, the family buried Zhaozhen. The old lady is in a very good mood. Jiang prepared a sumptuous dinner for the whole family. Having dinner, the younger brother-in-law is playing with the child in the room. I was just about to tidy up and go to bed, but at that moment, the child's mother is washing dishes in the kitchen. Suddenly, a scream rang out. The father and son sensed something was off. Immediately ran to the kitchen. Zhao Xuanzi runs fast. As soon as I reached the kitchen door, I was terrified to discover he collapsed to the ground, covered in blood. As I approached, I saw. Unexpectedly, I saw my deceased aunt, Zhaozhen. At this moment, both feet leave the ground, floating in the sky. In an instant, it sliced through her mother's throat. Her father walked in and saw this scene. Suddenly frozen in place, terrified, Zhaozhen raised her hand. Just left half of her father's face a bloody mess. Their eyes nearly popped out of their heads. After dealing with the two of them, directly floated towards the old lady's door. It seems they have no intention of harming the child. Everyone listened to her finish speaking. I don't even know how to express it properly. Usually, how does this family treat Zhaozhen? Everyone knows a little bit, right? Now it has become like this. Not worthy of sympathy. Zhaozhen married into their family. I've never had a good day. The old lady scolded her all day long. Her younger brother-in-law often has inappropriate thoughts about her. Several times, I almost had Zhaozhen taken away. Let's talk about this sister-in-law. Not only does she not blame her man, still spreading rumors in the village. It is said that Zhaozhen seduced her man. She's just a shameless vixen. But no matter what, everyone still wants to understand what is going on. But when I arrived at Zhaozhen's grave, I discovered Zhaozhen's grave has already disappeared. The coffin has already leaked out. The lid was thrown aside. There is no body of Zhaozhen in that coffin at all. Only the vanished old woman, lying inside, crushed by a large stone. What exactly happened? How did the old woman end up at the cemetery? No one knows either. Such a big incident has occurred. Everyone quickly reported to the police. The old lady was hastily buried. But this case has not been solved until now. Lai Ergu disappeared after that. It led the villagers to have other speculations. It is said that Lai Ergu dug out Xiao Zhen. Carrying Xiao Zhen on his back, he prepared to take revenge. Moreover, the old lady's family was left with deep scars. That scar looks like Lai Ergu, caused by the steel hook used for making burlap sacks. Because Lai Ergu lives next door to them, I was already aware of their family's malicious actions. So the sacred relic knows. Kill the entire family. Only the innocent child was left. That little child must have been terrified at that moment. Only then could it be seen as his aunt has returned. But all of this is just speculation by the villagers. No evidence at all. This case has not been solved yet. It ultimately became an unsolved case. Lai Ergu never returned again. Later, I heard someone say, it felt like seeing Lai Ergu in another city. There's a woman with him. That woman looks a lot like Xiao Zhen. But these are just rumors. It's also possible to misread. Three brothers seek a change of fortune. Unexpectedly dug up someone's grave by the roadside. Take the people inside home and recognize them as adoptive fathers. Daily offerings. I didn't expect to get into such big trouble because of this. This happened a long time ago. At that time, the situation was turbulent. There are quite a few newcomers. To avoid disaster, they all run to remote mountain villages. One day, it was said that three brothers came to the village. These three brothers are quite peculiar. Three people each have their own characteristics. Not at all like that. At first, no one paid attention to them. It wasn't long before the villagers discovered. The three of them unexpectedly found themselves in the wasteland at the east end of the village. Quietly, a large mansion was built. Look at them, these people are still invisible tycoons. So the village began to buzz with chatter. These three brothers are so extravagant in their actions. Surely it is an unjust talent. It could also be bandits robbing homes. In no time, the three brothers became the guardians of the village. Everyone kept their distance. After the house was built, this Wang family's eldest must have heard it from somewhere. They said they would place the immortals' remains in the attic for worship. Then they can be blessed with promotions and wealth. But where did these three find the ancestral remains in this place? So the group unanimously decided. Go find a corpse in a wild grave to be a godfather. Daily offerings. It might be useful after all. So the three of them decided to go for it. As the saying goes, digging up ancestral graves for the widows. It is a grave misdeed. But the three brothers felt no difference at all. They also invited a master of the Siona, playing a continuous tune. Arrived at the cemetery. Arriving at the truth room, there is also a separate space. Three people are digging a grave, while brainwashing the people inside. What do you say we bring him home to enjoy a life of comfort? Such filthy words coming out of their mouths. The way has become a great blessing. After a raucous parade of drums and gongs was brought back, several people immediately knelt before the coffin, adopted a godfather. After paying respects, they respectfully carried it up to the attic. The top is also filled with offerings. The villagers originally intended to stop, but upon closer inspection, it was also shaken. Everyone thinks that perhaps the corpse is being supported by a few people. The days down below are easier, but it hasn't been 2 days yet. An elderly woman with gray hair came to the door. They said they dug up her husband's grave. Make sure they give an explanation today. The Wan family's three brothers looked at the old lady, wearing rough cloth garments covered in patches. It was clear they were very poor. It won't cause any danger. So a few people were being unreasonable. They chased the old lady away. The old lady had no way out. This old man died young. The old couple had no children. This old woman, after her companion died, there is little interaction with the villagers. I don't know where to go to seek an explanation. The next day, someone carried the old man's portrait alone, sitting at the door of the Wang family's three brothers. He would tell everyone about the misdeeds of the three brothers. Lai Zongping from the village is a warm-hearted person. After listening to the old woman's words, a sweet melody brought a few people to the Wang family, decided to help the old lady seek justice. On that day in the big mansion, only Wang Leiasen is left alone. Several people stormed in with an imposing presence. They were also quite frightened. I know the purpose of a few people. It must be the corpse upstairs. So she wanted to stall for time until her two older brothers returned. But the villagers didn't want to hear what he had to say. He just wanted to go upstairs and move the coffin. Lao San realized he couldn't stop it. Suddenly took out a gun from his pocket. The villager shouted as he charged up to the attic. Then he suddenly fired a shot at the ceiling. Then there was a loud bang. They really managed to fool a few people. Everyone then remembered. At first, it was rumored that this was a matter of a family of bandits. Maybe this guy really can do something as ruthless as taking a life. Under the urging of Lao San, several people could only leave the house in a disheveled manner. But suddenly, old lady Qi tripped and fell. He bumped his head on the threshold. Suddenly fainted. Lai Zonbing saw the situation. Quickly called for help to carry the old lady. Go see the village doctor. Unfortunately, it still happened. The old lady fell down and never got up again. Since the elderly lady had no children, Lai Zongping arranged a simple funeral for the old lady. When the old lady was buried, the villagers set up a portrait of her husband. We're buried together. That portrait looks a bit strange. It feels like the left eye has been gouged out. A blank space. It looks very uncomfortable. Many people saw it at that time. Everyone didn't take it seriously. But what happened next was. It carried an air of mystery. Now, let's talk about the Wan family's three brothers. Shortly after the old lady was buried, hastily he called for the village matchmaker. His generosity is quite extravagant. I want to find a wife for myself. The matchmaker was very disgusted by the misdeeds of the three brothers. Not only did they refuse them, pointing at Wang's eldest son's nose. It was a scolding. After scolding, he sighed and closed the door. The eldest of the Wang family got a face full of disappointment. It seemed like they wanted to vent their anger. He bought a foolish girl from another village within 2 days. The wedding was celebrated with drums and gongs. Soon that silly girl became pregnant. Wait until the belly gets bigger. She deliberately came to the village to stroll around, especially at the matchmaker's doorstep, saying something sarcastic. This foolish girl during her pregnancy, Lao and Lao San were unwilling to be lonely. He also bought a wife from the remote mountains to bring home. We held a wedding together. At that time, many villagers who couldn't afford to eat went. Everyone is eating. The foolish girl suddenly clutched her stomach and cried out in pain. It seems like she is about to give birth. Well, this meal can't be eaten now. The boss knocked over the clock. Quickly called in the midwife to assist with the delivery. Fortunately, mother and child are safe. Strangely enough, this child hasn't opened their eyes for 2 days. The boss is quite attentive to his son, always by his bedside. On the morning of the 3rd day, the child finally opened their eyes, but it frightened Wang Lei quite a bit. Little Wang's left eye was completely blank, only one sclea without blood vessels. It looks very saintly. Wang Leiado was suddenly in a flurry. Please call the doctors around. It is said to be beyond cure. Moreover, this child is a premature baby. The body itself is weak. It didn't last long before it was cut short. The villagers all say, this is the cheating of the Wan family's 3 brothers. Digging up someone else's grave brings retribution. And also thinking about that old man who lost his left eye. This is more certain than ever. How could the three brothers of the Wang family not hear the news? Immediately scared the old man in the attic. The incense has been burning for several days straight. This is a long time after that. The three brothers were all quiet. Until one day, a year later, Wang Laosan was anxious and restless. The village doctor was invited to the house. It turns out today is the day of the delivery for Lao San's wife, although the midwife was invited early on. But the third son's wife is having a difficult childbirth, severe bleeding after giving birth. It's about to be over, while the third brother went to find a doctor. The woman has stopped breathing, just venting. She made sure to save her child before leaving. Lao San felt immense pain upon seeing this, kneeling by the bed, crying with snot and tears. Let's talk about this child. It's the same as what the boss has, and it's even more serious. From the eye outward, with a string of bull's testicles. It seems help is not far away. Indeed, the child passed away before reaching 1 month old. So much has happened. Wan family's three brothers. It was then that I realized the seriousness of the situation. They are also afraid of being cut off from future generations. He promptly decided to have the coffin in the attic taken away. On the day of the burial of Lao San's child, the three of them carried the old man outside, buried next to the old lady. Lao San couldn't bear the blow, leaving without a word, not knowing where to go. The second year, Wang Leado was afraid of being with the silly girl again. Give birth to an unhealthy child. She abandoned him and went to the neighboring village, remarried to the bride and Na's family. Only the second child and this silly girl were left in the big house. At the end of that year, someone saw the foolish girl having a blast with a little child. But that child walks, always leaning to one side, when he turned his head and looked back. Yet I found that the child's left eye showed no pain. Looks very pitiful. The sins committed by the Wang family's three brothers. In the end, it fell upon their descendants as retribution. Yet the child grew up healthy. But due to physical defects, the misdeeds committed by the Wang family's three brothers. Never married a wife in his whole life. A foolish man married a beautiful woman, thinking that fools have good fortune. Maiteng town is indeed beloved by the locals. This story takes place a long time ago. There is a family with the surname Lai in the village. Lai Leihan and his wife are 40 years old. Just got pregnant. It is said that the old Lai family has had only one son for 3 generations. Only after reaching 50 did I finally have my own. Both of them are very happy. I hope he will be honest and trustworthy in the future. He took the name Lai Zhongping. By the time the child was 3 years old, the couple lost their smiles. This child looks a bit foolish, constantly has snot and drool all day. As we grow older, this situation has not improved at all. It's getting worse and worse. The children in the village bullied him a lot. This has left the couple extremely worried. Time flies. Lai Zhongping has also reached the age to marry and have children. Don't be fooled by his seemingly dull appearance, but his appetite is astonishingly large. He can handle both household chores and work outside. Besides being foolish, there are no other issues. One night, the couple couldn't sleep, just thinking about finding a wife for my son. It's not like we want to let the old Lai family's lineage die out when the old couple returns after 100 years. From now on, someone will take care of Lai Zhongping. Old man Lai has a younger sister. I usually enjoy doing people's eyebrows. Lai Leihan found her. Soon, a beautiful young lady will be brought in. The elderly couple couldn't help but smile widely when they saw the girl's face. This girl is indeed quite charming. There's no need to mention Lai Zhongping. As soon as I saw this girl, those eyes went wide. Saliva unconsciously flowed from my mouth. It seems like it's the sister he likes. Soon the two of them got married. The girl's name is Xiao Dai. There are 4 girls in the family. The conditions are not good. In addition to asking for some betrothal gifts, no other requirements were mentioned. Everyone in the village says that Lai Zhongbing is a fool and his wife is just as foolish. Married a beautiful young woman. Not long after marriage, this girl got pregnant. The old couple cherished this daughter-in-law even more. She can't even do silly things. They say that during pregnancy, appetite changes. But this Zhao Dai gave birth in just 9 months, although he was a premature baby. But the child was born very healthy. The whole family was overjoyed. You can wait until the baby is 1 month old. Old Lady Lai sensed something was off. Zhao Dai's cousin has arrived, brought some things to see her. When she took the child in her arms, the more I look at old Lady Lai, the more something seems off. This child looks just like her cousin, as if carved from the same mold. Moreover, the way Zhao Dai looks at her cousin, it's simply stretchable. At first, the old lady was reluctant to believe. From that moment on, this cousin became a regular visitor in the house. She comes to see them every now and then. Once upon a day, the old lady went out to work early in the morning. I went home early because of some matters. But as soon as I reached the door, I felt something was off. The main gate is tightly closed in broad daylight. The old lady had a premonition. There must be something going on here. As expected, the old lady knocked loudly for quite a while. Zhao Dai finally ran out to open the door. Behind me, that cousin also stepped out unsteadily, left in a flurry. The old lady is quite advanced in age. Why can't you understand it yet? I was extremely furious at that moment. Pointing here, this daughter-in-law is Yitong. You can scold as much as you want. It's not of much use. This foolish son knows nothing about these things. The old lady was just afraid that her son would be bullied, suddenly overwhelmed with anger. From then on, she fell seriously ill and never recovered, calling her son to her side with tears in her eyes before her passing. Make sure he stays cautious of his wife. Lai Zhongbing still thought that his wife was treating him well. Don't let his mother worry. But he also knows that mother is gone. It's all so heartbreaking, with tears flowing and a runny nose. Lai Zhongbing is indeed unfortunate. The old lady left not long ago. Old man Lai also followed. Since the old couple left, Zhao Dai is even more reckless, running back to my parents' home every few days. Eventually, she even moved back to her mother's house. I haven't seen anyone for several days. Lai Zhongbing's home has long been a cold stove with no warmth. Don't be angry. All day it was just rotten vegetable leaves and steamed buns. No one around to take care of me. From then on, I was covered in dirt. Those who envied him in the village before, they have started to mock him now. He said his wife ran off with someone. Lai Zhongbing himself is fine. But if anyone speaks ill of his wife, he will fight fiercely with others. The day Lai Zhongbing had an accident, the 2 dogs from the village came to find him to work. I called out for a long time, but no one responded. Upon entering the room, he just fell down and sat on the ground. Lai Zhongbing was found hanging from the beam in his own house. This person is dead. Lai Zhongbing's wife has never come back. Still at home. It was still the villagers who helped with the funeral. He was buried together with his parents. What's even more frustrating is Lai Zhongbing has just passed away not long ago. His wife, Zhao Dai, unexpectedly returned with his cousin. Hai Xian moved into Lai Zhongbing's home. The villagers particularly disliked these 2 people, but I would occasionally observe them, become a topic of conversation during everyone's tea and meals. But for several days in a row, the yard was completely silent. Can't hear the child's cries. Everyone thinks there is a problem. He opened the door and prepared to go inside to take a look. A warning. A foul smell wafted through the air. Both of them were so scared that they collapsed to the ground. Gayati and his cousin hanged themselves in the room. It's been several days now. The body has started to decay. Strangely enough, there was nothing beneath their feet to support them. As for that child, also suffocated under the blanket, everyone in the village says it was Lai Zhongbing who couldn't stand them. Back for revenge. The people in that house are all dead. That place has also become a desolate village. No one dares to expel any more. The old man worked hard to raise his two sons. I never expected such an ending. This incident happened many years ago, in a small mountain village in the north. That winter began to rise. Liar Cheng from the village pulled his father, speeding quickly through the icy world, completely ignoring the back seat of the car. Old man Lai shivered from the cold, finally arrived at Lai Dasheng's doorstep. The old man has two sons, Liar Cheng and his brother Lai Dasheng. Since Lai Leihan became paralyzed in both legs 2 years ago, after losing the ability to take care of oneself, these two sons take turns taking care of him. One family, 1 month. Old Lai is really unfortunate. My old partner left early. Only this old man Lai has raised his two sons. This time, it was obvious that Liar Cheng had stayed at home for a month. It's been 2 days, and Lai Dashin still hasn't arrived. Liar Cheng became unhappy. Early in the morning, they dragged old man Lai along, delivered to Lai Dasheng's doorstep. I didn't expect that this big brother wasn't home. I don't know where the ghost went. Liar Cheng thought to himself. Lai Dasheng must have done it on purpose. The old man was already freezing at this point. It's incredibly cold today, yet I'm dressed very lightly. I just want to say that Da Chengzi is not home. The weather is so cold again. Let's just go back for now. Little did anyone know, Liar Cheng turned a deaf ear to his father's words, walked over in a fit of anger. Bang, bang, bang on the door. At this moment, he was filled with resentment towards his brother. She was convinced that her brother was definitely avoiding her. I must wait for him to arrive today. He didn't care that his father was shaking uncontrollably from the cold. Her face turned ashen. Lips turned purple. I've been waiting for a long time. Finally, Lai Dasheng has arrived. Watching him stroll back down the road, Cheng was instantly furious and erupted with rage. He rushed over and pointed at Lai Dasheng's nose, cursing him. Frustrated, they pushed Lai Dasheng forward. Lai Dasheng is not particularly skilled either. Jin Cheng actually dared to speak disrespectfully to me, still touching and moving around. The fire flared up with a quick spark. It doesn't matter who your real brother is. The two people just started fighting each other. The old man looked at his children who were supporting him. The two sons fought fiercely without holding back. 2 lines of hot tears immediately flowed down, recalling how I was back then, how it is like to deal with a mess. Raised the two of them. My heart feels a pang of sorrow. This sly old man is not a local. When he was 30 years old, my wife fell seriously ill and passed away. Abandoned 2 children around 7 or 8 years old. Moreover, I encountered those frantic years again. Lai Leihan used a pancake bomb. 2 bamboo baskets were used to carry the son away to seek a living in another town, thousands of miles ahead. Walking step by step like this. Everything edible on the road was left for the 2 children. I can say that I've never had a full meal. All these years. She exhausted her legs to the point of injury. Later, I arrived at the current place. Finally put down roots. Relying on one's own hands. Reclaiming wasteland. Raising 2 children. During this time, someone introduced a wife to him. But he always feared that the stepmother would treat the 2 sons poorly. I never looked for it again. The child has finally grown up. Lai Leihan was busy preparing new houses for both of his sons, married a wife, and I'm afraid of causing trouble for my 2 sons. I've always lived alone. 3 years ago, my leg, due to the illness left over from my youth, still paralyzed. There's no choice but to have 2 sons take turns caring. During this time, there were many arguments. Lai Leihan recalled these painful memories. A wave of pain twisted in my heart. Lai Leihan no longer made any sound. In this fierce wind and rain, silently ended her tragic life. The first to notice something was off about old man Lai was Lai Dasheng. The 2 people fought fiercely, unwilling to part, not caring at all about his father's well-being. This time something feels off. The old man's body has become stiff. The two brothers did not feel much sadness. The funeral expenses were quickly split evenly. Sent Old Man Lie up the mountain. After Old Man Lie died, everyone in the village talks about these two brothers. Lai Lei Han is such a good person. These two brothers are so carefree. One day there will be consequences. The end of the year has come in the blink of an eye. The villagers went to the river to break the ice and fish. The villagers first on the thick ice surface broke many ice holes, ready to go down in one shot. Liar Cheng was also dragging a fish net several dozen meters long, walking towards the center of the river. Suddenly there was nothing underfoot. Stepped on a thin layer of ice. Suddenly the whole person leaned back. Suddenly fell into the ice hole. At that time I was already dressed warmly. Liar Cheng didn't have time to react. Suddenly choked on water a few times. He knew this time he was in serious trouble because of the water flowing beneath the ice layer. It will quickly push it far away from the ice hole. We can't get out at all, even if those above him intend to save him. I can't see his location. Unable to lend a helping hand. This cold river water made Liar Cheng's body. Soon I became numb. The clothing gradually detached from his mind. At that moment, it felt like he stepped on something. He pushed his way up all the way. Liar Cheng felt puzzled. What could be down there in the water? Straining to look down. It seems like there is someone underwater. Moreover, this person is very familiar. After a while, Liar Cheng was dragged out of the water by that person. The person on the river's surface saw him, quickly came over and pulled him down, after taking off the wet clothes. They brought in a thick cotton quilt again, wrapped around him. At this moment, Liar Cheng finally realized how much of a jerk I am. Under the astonished gazes of the crowd, suddenly fell to the ground and cried out loudly, continually apologizing to his father. Suddenly threw off the blanket towards the direction where his father was buried, kept knocking his head repeatedly. Everyone present looked confused. I don't know what happened. According to later reports from the second division, at that moment he was in the river and about to drown. It was stepping up on someone's shoulder, and that person is his father. That was for the two brothers. The old man who has suffered a lifetime of hardships, a lifetime of hard work and dedication. In the end, the old man was despised to death. The elders in the family always say, the large stones and dirt mounds by the roadside cannot be used casually. Have you heard of the wooden village by the roadside? Can't it be done casually? This incident happened in my hometown, in a small village in Zhejiang City, Sichuan province. Because the middle school is quite far from home. At that age, I was still young. I am with two friends. We go to school together every day. Let's walk back to the village together after school. It was around October of my second year in middle school. Once I was with Lai Zongbing and Lai Ergu. Walking on the way home, Lai Ergu proposed to take the shortcut home. But that road is strictly forbidden by the adults at home. That road is said to be haunted, although I'm not sure of its authenticity. But I don't want to take that risk. But my hesitant attitude, clearly looked down upon by Lai Ergu. They say I'm a coward. If you're scared, then don't follow them. After saying that, he ran alone into the woods. Lai Zongbing is also a beautiful person at heart. I usually follow Lai Ergu closely. Lai Ergu is going on an adventure. He will definitely be there, without waiting for him to call out. In a flash, he chased right after Lai Ergu. Two people laughed at me, running deeper into the woods, seeing that they have all left. I also intend to follow along. It's not that I'm not afraid, but in contrast, I'm more afraid that they won't take me with them in the future. Originally, my grades were better than theirs. They both stopped coming to see me. If this continues to be out of sync, I'm afraid it will give you more excuses to distance yourself from me. I must have chased after them too. Soon, They arrived at a place by the roadside with several large trees. Adults often say this place is quite eerie. Let's not get too close. I still feel a bit nervous as I walk here. But the two of them suddenly had a brilliant idea. What exciting games should we play down there? I heard their plan. I wanted to go over and stop them, because I have heard my grandmother mention it more than once, regarding the matter of these tree farms and the mountain ditches in the hills. The two people completely ignored my advice. Instead, they mocked my not-so-smart appearance. Those are all lies that adults tell to scare children. They walked away without looking back, jumped down from 2 or 3 meters away from the roadside, lost in the fun, because I really don't have the courage to jump down. Just one person happily returned home, while I was having dinner and doing my homework. Suddenly, there was a commotion outside the house. It sounds like the parents of Lai Zonping and Lai Ergu. It turns out they still haven't gone home. It's already 10 o'clock at night. No way it's still not home yet. A bad feeling suddenly arose in my heart. Hastily told them. They both entered the forest, went to the tree farm, listened to me finish. The faces of both sets of parents instantly turned sour. The flashlight flickered randomly, hastily rushed up the mountain. They searched for a long time on that mountain road. I haven't seen the two of them either. The adults are all worried. Will the two children be led astray by the mountain spirits? The way the mountain spirit harms people. It can be said to be diverse. One of them is to deceive the mind. As long as you are captivated by him, you will unconsciously head into the mountains. Their worries are not without reason, because in the past, after entering to save someone, died in that mountain gorge. So the adults all tell us to never go there, as everyone was anxiously searching. Finally arrived at the place with many tree stumps. It's strange to say, the road that usually takes just a short walk to get to. That day, we walked for over half an hour. Someone has been seen. The adults all breathed a sigh of relief. This made it difficult for everyone to find. The adults were thinking of giving them a lesson. It soon became clear that something was wrong. Lai Sanbing and Lai Ergu, facing so many shouts. There is no reaction at all. As everyone approached to take a look, everyone was so scared that their faces turned pale. In the mouth of the nail man, filled with grass, dirt, and such things, rolling her eyes up to the sky, sitting still on the tree stump, face turned pale, shortness of breath, as if they had lost consciousness long ago. The adults quickly carried the person back to the village. I heard from their mouths, took out a lot of dirty things. I don't even know when I started eating this. According to the village elders, the mountain boy took revenge on the person who made him a stump, can turn dirt into a delicacy, tempting people to eat it. Once they reached a certain level of eating, there was no hope of survival left. Fortunately, Lai Zonping and Lai Ergu. Usually, I can't eat much because I get too distracted. Just got saved back, but it was still a life or death situation. Both of them felt seriously ill. Lai Zonping took more than half a year to recover fully, but Lai Ergu was not so lucky. The whole person has become nothing but skin and bones. It seems very harmful. So, not listening to the advice of the elders. Suffering loss is right in front of us. Children should listen to adults. Otherwise, the one who will feel uncomfortable is you. A man leveraged connections to buy a truckload of timber, make a house full of furniture. I thought I had found a treasure trove. I didn't expect it was made from such strange materials. This incident happened in the 1980s, in a small village in Longnan City, Gansu Province. This place is backed by the Los Plateau, causing the land to be barren and dry for years. It is truly unsuitable for living, but the people there, yet lived for several centuries, unwilling to leave. One day the old village head happily pulled back a cart of oil-soaked wood from outside. In that era, this is something that money can't buy. Taking advantage of this break from unloading the timber, Lao Lai hurriedly arrived at the carpenter's house in the village. Excitedly, she asked him to get her a bunch of nice furniture. Master Jai's carpentry shop is not far away. Lao Lai found him in the back room again, as soon as I heard someone. Master Jai lifted the curtain and stepped out. Called Lao Lai to go outside. When I saw that pile of lumber at the old place, suddenly everything became clear. Gently stroking the wood, while praising the quality of the wood, immediately expressed, "I will definitely make a bunch of beautiful furniture." So the two had no choice but to stay outside. The work schedule and price have been finalized. When Lao Lai left the carpenter's workshop, I always felt that Master Jai seemed a bit strange that day. After that, the wood was left in the carpenter's workshop. But Lao Lai wanted to go in several times to check on the progress. They were all kept outside by Master Jai for various reasons. Until a month later, the furniture is finally ready, directly delivered to Old Lai's home. Master Jai's skills are beyond compare. Whether it's being or working, there's nothing to criticize. Lao Lai's wife looked at the pile of new furniture, so happy that I can't close my mouth. But when night fell, strange things started happening. The couple slept until midnight. Lao Lai's wife got up. They just left a short while ago. A sharp scream echoed from her room. Lao Lai thought his wife was in danger, quickly got up and ran outside. I went outside to take a look, but saw the furniture that had just been delivered during the day. At this moment, they were all lying crookedly in the corners of the room. The couple was stunned, thought a thief had come into the house. But when I saw the tea flute at the gate, there are no traces of movement at all. It's impossible for anyone to come in, although doubts arise. But nothing was lost at home. The couple had no choice but to return the furniture to its original place, went back to the house to continue sleeping. But by the next evening, strange noises suddenly appeared in the room. This time both of them heard it. The sound was like the scraping of a table leg on the floor. It sounds especially harsh at night. The couple felt that something was off at that moment, thinking there must be a thief in the house. Picked up a stick and went to catch the thief in the act. The two people quietly lifted the curtain to take a look. The hall is empty. Not even a ghost shadow was seen. Strangely enough, the furniture all showed signs of having been moved. Even this matter has happened in the past 2 days. The couple couldn't sit still anymore, as soon as I mentioned it to the villagers. Everyone found it very strange. Isn't this like seeing a ghost? The furniture can move on its own. The villagers heard that everyone would come to take a look, but no one noticed anything wrong. Later, it was an older man from the village, Sibo, picked up a stool and stared at it for a long time. I finally saw a clue. This furniture is not right. It's clearly been stitched together, although the outside uses new wood, but a lot of it is old. The materials are not of one kind. Old Lai heard this. I was so angry at that moment. I pulled it over myself back then. But it's all high-quality timber. Is this old chicken really that scarce? Give to your own furniture. A sneaky trick was played. Change the materials. He didn't expect that this carpenter, who always looked like a banana tree. How utterly despicable, recalling the greedy look in the carpenter's eyes at that time. And every time they wouldn't let me in to see. Old Life felt even more certain. This carpenter definitely has a problem. He stormed into the carpenter's house. Settle the score with him. When they arrived at the carpenter's shop, the large door stood wide open. There is no one inside at all. Old Life shouted excitedly as he entered the house. But still not a shadow of a person was seen. I thought it would be the same as last time, working in the back room. Hurry and take a few steps forward. He lifted the curtain of the room with a single motion, but I didn't expect to see such a scene inside. In the dimly lit room, several old coffins are haphazardly placed, leaning this way and that. It's clearly dug up from the graveyard. Lao Lai was extremely angry after talking to the villagers. It immediately aroused public outrage. They found the master shaman in the neighboring village. He also called, used a lot of old coffin boards sold to him by others as materials, made into furniture and sold to everyone. What could be the specific source? Only he himself knows, because many families in this village, everyone has bought furniture from this carpenter. For a moment, it caused panic among the people. Everyone is looking for this priest to demand an explanation. Ever since I last appeared in another village, the carpenter disappeared without a trace from that day on. He probably fears that the villagers will come to settle scores with him. Fled to another place. It's a pity about Lao Lai's wooden car. I don't know who that unscrupulous carpenter sold it to. The child picked up a piece of twine and made a rocket. While his grandfather wasn't paying attention, it got stuck on Grandpa's head. Who would have thought the next moment? He struck the horse's rear with a fierce whip, the other end of the rope tied to the horse's hoof. But why does he want to do this? This child was born, just like everyone else. This happened many years ago. There once was a family with the surname Lai. The old couple lives with their son and daughter-in-law. It's quite strange to say. Old Lai's son got married in his early 20s. Until I turned 40. Still haven't had a son or daughter. During this time, my wife did get pregnant twice. But I don't know why. It's either a miscarriage or a stillbirth. Always can't keep. Finally pregnant with the third child. As soon as I was born. It turns out to be a boy. The whole family was overjoyed. This time, the Lao Lai family finally has descendants. Just in case. I gave him an easy-to-raise name, named Ergu. But strangely, as soon as the child saw Lai Zongping, she opened her eyes wide and looked at him maliciously, as the child grows day by day. Just a second ago, I was smiling at someone else. But when I saw Lai Zongping, he put on a fierce look. The family finds it strange, but I didn't take it to heart. Until the child turned 7 years old. The child slowly began to lose control. The first person harmed by Ergu was his grandmother. That day he followed his grandmother to the well to fetch water, taking advantage of his grandmother's moment of inattention. With a single push, he sent his beloved grandmother into the well. The old lady simply doesn't understand how I fell into the well. At this point, I don't even know my own grandson. Why do you want to harm him? Still shouting loudly for Ergu. Hurry and call someone to save him. Ergu stood by the well. Seeing that the old lady had fallen silent, he pretended to run in front of his parents. Crying, I said that Grandma fell into the well, when the old lady was pulled up, already lost consciousness. Lai Zongping and his wife were instantly heartbroken. But Ergu was in the crowd, showed a satisfied smile. The second person he harmed was his grandfather. Ergu tied the rope securely. Then a whip struck the horse's rear. The horse is in pain. She spread her legs and ran outside. The old man hasn't reacted yet. What happened? Was dragged on the ground and ran outside. Ergu watched this scene. The corners of my mouth couldn't help but rise. After Grandpa had been dragged out for a long time, he slowly approached Lai Zongping and his wife. With a tearful voice, they said Grandpa was dragged away by a horse. The two followed the trail to the open fields outside. I found that half of the old man's body had worn away. Both elders at home died tragically one after another. Lai Zongping suddenly became furious, fell ill and couldn't get up. The funeral can only be handled by the daughter-in-law, Ziulian. These old folks are good people. Ziulian remembers her tragically deceased father-in-law and mother-in-law. Kneeling before the forest, I cried until I was a mess of tears. She is crying sadly. Suddenly, there was a faint sound of footsteps behind me. It doesn't sound like an adult. Looking back, it turns out to be my own son, Ergu. Ziulian saw that he was still awake so late. He questioned him about what he was doing at Lintang in the middle of the night. Little Ergu surprisingly spoke in an adult tone. Do you know why they died? Because you are all family of Lai Zongping. So you all should die, he said as he pulled out a sharp knife from behind. I am going to stab Zhao Ziulian. Ziulian looked at his fierce and menacing appearance, quickly dodged to the side. The knife missed its target, but was instead pierced into the coffin lid. Ziulian couldn't understand how Ergu suddenly changed like this. Ergu suddenly grabbed Ziulian's collar. He said fiercely that he is not Ergu. His real name is Wang Long. It's to seek revenge on Lai Zongping. After saying that, he raised the sharp knife. I want to seize Yulin, perhaps the last thread of sanity. He was pulled back. He let Ziulian go, spoke about their own experiences. He lived before the liberation. His name is Wang Long, living in a place called Shanlin Village. At that time, the family of four lived modestly, but life is still quite joyful. Until one day, a gang of mountain bandits shattered their once happy life. A family is having a meal. Suddenly, a violent knocking sound echoed from outside, because there were always bandit troubles at that time. So they keep the door closed during the day. The people outside saw that no one was opening the door for a long time. He kicked the door open with a few strong hits. The big door creaked open. A group of bandits armed with knives and guns burst in. Wang Long took a look at this situation. My heart skipped a beat. The one leading them is none other than the infamous Lai Zongping from a past life. Wang Long was stunned for a moment. Finally coming to my senses, I hurried into the house. Shouting loudly, "The bandits are coming!" Not yet reached the door. At this moment, the powerless person also heard the noise. Seeing Wang Long like this, both anxious and scared, Wang Long's father saw his son was injured. Pick up a wooden stick. I will fight to the death with Lai Zongping. Lai Zongping didn't say a word. Ming laughed and shot his father in the head. The family watched the sudden change. Everyone started crying heartbreakingly. Lai Zongping and the others didn't care at all. He also instructed his subordinates to search and loot Wang Long's house, moved everything edible and usable from his home. A few people swaggered out, not leaving anyone a way out. Wang Long looked at his father, who had tragically died in front of him, gritted his teeth and said, "I will definitely seek revenge on them." Lai Zongping heard the words revenge, stopped in my tracks. Without hesitation, he raised the gun. That's it. The entire family died at the hands of Lai Zongping. Lai Zongping watched this scene. A loud, unrestrained laugh echoes. Find me for revenge in the next life. Ergu finished speaking, and no longer cared about Zhu Lin. This time, he made Lai Zongping experience the pain of losing a loved one. Now it's his turn. He then turned and walked towards Lai Zongping's room. Zilin looked at his appearance, quickly chased after. Ergu arrived at Lai Zongping's room. Without further ado, they raised the knife. Zilin shouted in panic, "Lai Zongping!" This scream woke him up. Looking back, he saw Ergu raising a sharp knife towards him. He instinctively dodged, still pierced into his back. Before he could react, Ergu swung his knife again. Lai Zongping couldn't escape this time. A cut was made on the belly. Ergu saw this and raised the knife again to stab forward, but was firmly grabbed by Lai Zongping at the wrist. Zilin then hugged Ergu, shouting that Lai Zongping is not called Lao Pao. He must have recognized the wrong person. The three people started grappling with each other. Ergu is just a child after all. In no time, Lai Zongping snatched the weapon from his hand, although the knife is gone. But Ergu still broke free from Zhu Lin, viciously pounced on Lai Zongping. In the midst of chaos, Lai Zongping's knife suddenly plunged into Ergu's body. Fortunately, the police were alerted in time. Just saved Ergu's life. The police conducted an investigation. Ergu was admitted to the mental hospital. Lai Zongping was also hurt by the passing away, sentenced to 3 years. But this case was 2 years later. Ergu managed to escape, unknown whereabouts. But Lai Zongping did not know why. Died in prison. The little child has finished exploring, accidentally pulled up someone else's grave box. I didn't expect that something would happen that afternoon. It turns out this box is quite special. Do not pull it out, no matter what. This is a true event that happened in our village. At that time, Lai Zongping and Lai Ergu still owed me, known as the three musketeers of our village. That day I had a conflict with the two of them. They won't play with me anymore. The next day, I heard that Lai Zongping got into trouble. Lai Zongping usually only comes back during the new year. The two agreed to compete in a firecracker contest. Everyone knows that children play with firecrackers. It is a very dangerous action. But these two didn't just play around, did even stranger things. Two people chased and fought each other all the way. Lai Zongping kept throwing several in a row. They were all dodged by Lai Ergu. He is unwilling to accept it. Relentlessly pursue him until you catch up. They actually chased all the way to the woods by the village. Lai Ergu disappeared in the blink of an eye. There is little of anything in that forest. It's just a grave, looking at the scattered new and old graves in the forest. He didn't feel scared either, holding a box and firecrackers, always ready to attack Lai Ergu. But he searched everywhere. No trace of Lai Ergu was found. And at this moment, the box in hand is about to burn out. This really made him anxious. What if Lai Ergu takes the opportunity to ambush him? He will be completely powerless to fight back. Just when he was at a loss, Lai Ergu suddenly rushed out from behind a grave mound, perhaps watching Lai Zongping from the shadows. He knows he no longer has the box in his hand. Smiling with great satisfaction, took out the firecrackers and lit them. He threw it towards Lai Zongping. Lai Zongping was extremely anxious at this moment. This boy is driven by an innate desire to win. You definitely can't just sit and wait like this. Where there's a will, there's a way. Liu Anhuaming has a village. Behind Lai Zongping, there is a grave. Offering is placed on top. In a bowl filled with rice, 3 incense sticks were inserted. He saw these 3 incense sticks. Simply ecstatic. Without hesitation, he pulled it up, with a lighter in his pocket, quickly ignited the incense. Because of being anxious, he also knocked over the offerings and the bowl for incense. He was only focused on having a showdown with Lai Ergu, not having the slightest idea what consequences this would bring. By evening, the two people got tired of playing and went back to their own homes. Go find your own mothers. But just at dinner time, Lai Zongping started to behave strangely. His parents also found out. It's usually like pulling teeth just to get him to eat. Today, however, is unusually different. Like a vicious tiger pouncing on its prey. Finished the rice in the bowl in just a few bites. I still ate 3 or 4 more bowls and wasn't full yet. If it weren't for the food on the table being gone, still don't know how much to eat to be full. Finished eating. Lai Zongping ignored everyone. A person returned to the room. That behavior was very wooden. It doesn't seem right. Lai Mu looked at him this way. I followed him because I was worried. He didn't respond when I asked him what was wrong. Just a touch. Goodness, this body temperature is as high as the floors in Chongqing. You can directly boil the eggs now. Lai's mother quickly called his father in. I took a look inside. He discovered that it was more than just a fever. The eyelids kept flipping upwards. Only white has been translated, not black. Strange words began to spill from his mouth. What do you mean by saying you are my family's match? Want to cut off my family line. I will definitely take care of you. That voice was not a child's voice. Very old, like an old man. The couple thought it was the child talking nonsense. I want to wake him up, send him to the village clinic. What happens next? But it scared them quite a bit. Lai Zongping suddenly sat up straight, suddenly turned to look at the two. That face is full of wrinkles. The expression on his face was extremely angry. He said angrily, "Hooligan, pulled out my family's ballot. You want me to cut off my lineage. I have to make him suffer a bit to learn his lesson. With that, he fell onto the bed with a thud. Couldn't wake them, no matter how I called. Mother Lai finally realized this child probably got into trouble during the day, so he asked his father to find Lai Ergu and clarify things. His father was also quite frightened, hurriedly arrived at the neighbor Lai Ergu's house. Lai Ergu's mother realized the situation was so serious. Turning around, he went back inside to wake up Lai Ergu. Lai Ergu woke up with a confused expression, hearing that Lai Zongping is in a deep sleep due to what happened during the day. I wouldn't dare to hide it. He explained the situation in detail. After he mentioned that Lai Zongping had pulled out the box from someone else's grave, everyone's expression changed. Lai Ergu swiftly gave him a strong slap to the face. Cursing those two is simply asking for trouble. Everyone in the village knows. Burning incense at someone's grave. It's a wicked act meant to cut off that family's lineage. This is not something to take lightly. Immediately, with a serious expression, he asked Lai Zongping's father, "Hurry up and buy paper money and candles." Apologizing to someone, Lai Zongping's father did not dare to slack off. "I have bought the things." Following Lai Ergu's grandfather, we went to the grave. According to Lai Ergu's statement, after searching all around, I finally found it. The offerings on the grave were knocked over by Lai Zongping. His father quickly followed what Grandpa Lai Ergu said, repacked the box, changed into the offerings, kneeling on the ground, pleading endlessly. I hope he has a magnanimous nature. We can forgive a child's thoughtless behavior. I begged for over 10 minutes. Lai Ergu's grandfather was the one who allowed his father to get up and walk. His father glanced at the incense in front of the grave. It's been so long without a life. This old man should have already accepted the apology. If the incense goes out, that would be a big problem. The two returned home with a feeling of apprehension. Lai Zongping has woken up. The anxious heart finally let go. His father saw that he was awake this time. She began to teach him a lesson with a face full of anger. After scolding him, "You must never commit to marriage," doing this reckless thing, but looking at his lifeless expression, didn't say much more. Just let him rest well. Afterward, Lai Zongping looked listless for several days. "I have been experiencing stomach issues for a few days for no reason, but there's not really a big problem. I will never dare to mess with things in the graveyard again." The man returned from the city. My arm broke out in red bumps. In just one night, it grew all over. His wife suspected he brought back a dirty disease. I didn't expect it was because of this. Lai Ergu has started a business in growing medicinal herbs this time. Don't say business isn't going well. As winter approaches each year, he would go to the city to collect the payment. Every time it gets to this moment, his wife would send them off far away, remind him not to pick the wild flowers by the roadside. Most men are like this. Once you have money, it's easier to get carried away, not knowing how to restrain oneself when away from home. That time, Lai Ergu was just like usual. He returned on the third day. Things are progressing quite smoothly. Lai Ergu also brought many good things from the city. "Come back to my wife and kids." Although his wife outwardly criticized him for spending money recklessly, but inside I still felt quite happy. The herbal medicine business is doing so well. The days finally seem to have a glimmer of hope. You can sleep until midnight. Lai Ergu's wife was awakened by a scratching sound. He sat up in confusion, called Lai Ergu up, thought it was Lai Ergu who stayed in a hotel in the city for 2 days. Brought back the fleas. You can lift his clothes to take a look. His wife felt that something was off. Only then did I see Lai Ergu's strong arm. At this moment, it is filled with dense red dots. Just looking at it makes people very uncomfortable. The next morning, bright and early, he arrived at the village clinic. Even the doctor couldn't figure out the reason. Moreover, that arm only submitted for 1 night. The red bump on top has grown more than twice its size. It kept oozing thick liquid even after a touch. As soon as I got home, my wife was unhappy. Sheng Wai accuses Lai Ergu. It's time to go to the city to find the young lady, returned with a dirty illness. This life is unbearable. Lai Ergu was already feeling unwell. This daughter-in-law even found him. He felt even more aggrieved. Creating something out of nothing. He definitely can't recognize it. So the couple had a big fight. Lai Ergu, in a fit of anger, ran out in a rush. Arrived at a small restaurant. Raised a toast with wine. He couldn't figure out how he ended up with this strange illness. The more you think, the more foolish you become. Drank several big bottles in a row. Finally, I slowly walked back home. I never expected to come across a dirt slope. Suddenly I slipped, fell into the ravine. It's quite strange to say. Just this over 1 meter deep pit. He ended up breaking his leg. At this time, his whole body was covered in festering sores. The wife looked at him like this. She was so angry that she packed her bags and went back to her mother's house. Lai Ergu is also quite pitiful. Lying here on the bed, no one is taking care of me. Let's talk about this daughter-in-law. Upon arriving at her family home, she began to talk about the matter of Lai Ergu. This old lady is very reasonable, blaming his own daughter for not taking care of the seriously ill Gu Yi, left at home unattended. Moreover, my daughter mentioned the situation of Lai Ergu. It doesn't seem like an infectious disease. It feels like a curse has been placed upon someone. Hearing the old lady say this, the daughter-in-law finally realized. The child was entrusted to the old lady. So I went to the neighboring village to find the teacher. Quickly invited the husband back home. The gentleman frowned as well. Let Lai Ergu's wife help him down. He said he had something to ask him. Ask him if he has ever worshipped in this city. Zhu Buo Yuan. Lai Ergu reminisced for a moment. I didn't expect this to be true. The day after receiving the payment, after buying the ticket, while waiting for the bus, just entered a temple. Lai Ergu thought about working in this line of business. It's still considered a deal. I just want to go in and pay my respects. I hope it can bless him with wealth. But the great Buddha was surrounded by people. This will take until the year of the monkey and the month of the horse. Just as I was about to turn and leave, I didn't expect there was a statue in the room next door. Lai Ergu doesn't understand these either. As long as it's in the temple, it can be worshipped. He sincerely knelt down, prostrating and making wishes with great fervor. The gentleman listened attentively. I asked him what the deity he worships looks like. Lai Ergu reminisced for a moment, just mentioned how fierce the statue looks. Holding a large snake in my hand, stepping on skeletons beneath my feet. The gentleman was equally astonished after listening. This kid really doesn't know how to take care of himself. Unexpectedly worshipped the played god to seek his blessing. Everyone knows this. This played god is no good. That gentleman is also in a difficult situation regarding this matter. Lai Ergu and his wife looked at their husband's appearance. It was quite a fright, begging him to save her. The gentleman sighed helplessly. Let's prepare the offerings as best as we can. As for whether it can be sent away, then it's hard to say. Lai Ergu's wife didn't dare to be negligent. It took quite a bit of effort to prepare these 3 liters of offerings. Then Mr. helped Lai Ergu to the yard. He put on the daist robe. They began performing a ritual around Lai Ergu. Lai Ergu is truly fortunate and blessed. The gentleman really did send the played god away. It takes 100 days to heal a sprained muscle or broken bone. Lai Ergu has been at home for over half a year. Then my body and legs feel nimble. But it's good that it's good. But left him with psychological scars. After that, he let his wife handle the debt collection. As the saying goes, it's easy to invite the gods, but hard to send them away. Urine can be randomly offered in sacrifice. This god should not be worshipped indiscriminately. The 3 brothers sought to change their fortunes. Unexpectedly, a grave was randomly dug by the roadside. Take the person inside home and recognize him as a godfather. Daily offerings. I never expected that it would lead to such big trouble. This happened a long time ago. At that time, the situation was turbulent. There are quite a few newcomers. To escape disaster, they all run to the remote mountain village. It is said that one day, three brothers came to the village. These three brothers are quite strange. Three people each have their own characteristics. Not at all like that. At first, no one paid attention to them. Not long after, the villagers discovered these three people were unexpectedly in the wasteland at the east end of the village. Quietly, a grand mansion was built. Look at them. These people are still invisible wealthy. So the news in the village spread like wildfire. The three brothers are so generous with their spending. It must be some kind of unjust talent. It could also be bandits committing robbery. In no time, the three brothers became the guardians of the village. Everyone kept their distance in silence. After the house was built, this Wang family's eldest son doesn't know where he heard it from. They said they would place the immortal's remains in the attic for veneration. At that time, they can be blessed with promotions and wealth. But where did these three people find the ancestral remains in this place? So Jane unanimously decided. Go find a corpse in a wild grave to be a godfather. Daily offering. Maybe it's useful too. So the three of them decided to get started. As the saying goes, digging up ancestors' graves for the widows. It is truly a shameful act. But the three brothers didn't feel any difference at all. They also invited a master to play the siona, playing a continuous melody. Arrived at the cemetery, I found a grave mound overgrown with wild grass. No monument and no offerings. It really looks like a wild grave. Three people are digging a grave, while brainwashing the people inside. Say what? Bring him home to enjoy life. This sordid thing came out of their mouths. It was as if it had turned into a monumental blessing. After a loud commotion of gongs and drums was brought back, several people immediately knelt down in front of the coffin, became a godfather. After the ceremony, they respectfully carried it up to the attic. The top is also filled with offerings. The villagers intended to stop it. But when I looked over there, I was also shaken. Everyone thinks that perhaps the corpse is being supported by several people. Life is better down there. But it wasn't long before an elderly lady with gray hair came to the door. They said they dug up her husband's grave. Make sure they give an explanation today. The Wan family's three brothers looked at the old lady, wearing a coarse cloth outfit covered in patches. It's clear that they are very poor. It won't pose any danger. So a few people were being unreasonable. He kicked the old lady out. The old lady had no way out. This old man died young. The elderly couple had no children. This old woman, after her husband died. There is not much interaction with the villagers. I don't even know where to go to seek an explanation. The next day, he set out alone with the old man's portrait, sitting at the entrance of the Wan family's three brothers' home. He told everyone about the misdeeds of these three brothers. Lai Zongping from the village is a warm-hearted person. After listening to the old lady's words, a sweet melody brought a few people to the Wan family, decided to help the old lady seek justice. That day in the big mansion, only Wan Laosin is there. A few people stormed in with a fierce momentum. They were also quite scared. Know the purpose of a few people. It must be the body upstairs. So I wanted to buy some time until my two brothers returned. But the villagers didn't want to hear what he had to say at all. He directly wanted to go upstairs and take the coffin away. Lao San realized he couldn't stop it. Suddenly pulled out a gun from his pocket. The villager shouted towards those rushing up to the attic. Then he suddenly fired a shot at the ceiling. A loud bang sounded. They really scared a few people. Everyone then remembered. At first, it was rumored that this was the matter of a family of bandits. Maybe this could really lead to a deadly situation. Under the urging of Lao San, a few people could only awkwardly retreat from the house. But suddenly, Grandma was tripped. He bumped his head on the threshold. Suddenly, I fainted. Lai Songping saw the situation, quickly called for someone to help lift the old lady. Go see the village doctor. Unfortunately, it still happened. The old lady fell and never got up again. Since the old lady had no children, Lai Songping arranged a simple funeral for the old lady. When the old lady was buried, the villagers placed her husband's portrait. They were buried together as well. That portrait looks a bit strange. It felt as if the left eye had been gouged out. A blank space. It looks very uncomfortable. Many people saw it at that time. Everyone didn't take it seriously. What happened next? It exudes an eerie vibe. Let's talk about the Wang family's three brothers. Soon, they hurriedly found the village matchmaker. The generosity of his actions is quite impressive. I want to find a wife for myself. The matchmaker is very disgusted by the misdeeds of the three brothers. Not only rejected them, pointing at Wan's eldest son's nose. It was a scolding. After scolding, they closed the door with a bang. The Wan family's eldest son got a cold shoulder, as if wanting to vent their anger. A few days later, I bought a silly girl from another village. They got married with great fanfare. Soon that silly girl got pregnant. Wait until the belly gets bigger. She deliberately came to stroll around the village, especially at the matchmaker's doorstep, saying something that sounds sour and sarcastic. This foolish girl during her pregnancy. Lao Er and Lao San are unwilling to be lonely. He also brought home a wife from the remote mountains. We held a wedding together. At that time, there were still many villagers who couldn't get enough to eat. Everyone is eating. The silly girl suddenly clutched her stomach and cried out in pain. It seems like she is about to give birth. Well, this meal can't be eaten now. The boss sent off Zhang, quickly called the midwife to assist with the delivery. Fortunately, both mother and child are safe. It is strange that this child hasn't opened their eyes for 2 days. The boss is quite attentive to his son, always guarding by his bedside. On the morning of the 3rd day, the child finally opened their eyes. But it terrified Wang Leota greatly. Only then did I see that Zaya Wang's left eye was completely blank. Only a white eyeball with no blood vessels. Looks like a sage. Wang Leota immediately became anxious and restless. Please call the doctors around. They say it is beyond cure. Moreover, this child is a premature baby. The body itself is already weak. It didn't last long before it came to an end. The villagers all say, this is the wrongdoing of the Wang family's 3 brothers. Digging up someone else's grave brought retribution. Moreover, thinking of that old man who lost his left eye, this is even more set in stone. How could the 3 brothers of the Wang family not hear the news? Immediately scared the old man in the attic. The incense has been burning for several days straight. It has been a long time since then. The 3 brothers were all quiet. Until a year later, one day, Wang Leosin was burning with anxiety. The village doctor was invited to the house. It turns out today is the day the 3rd son's wife is giving birth. Although the midwife was called early on, but the 3rd brother's wife is having a difficult labor. Severe bleeding after giving birth. It's about to be over. As soon as Lao San found a doctor, the woman has stopped breathing. Just let it out. She insisted on saving her child before leaving. Lao San felt immense pain upon seeing this, kneeling by the bed, crying with snot and tears. This child is just like the eldest one, and it's even more serious. A string of mucus is growing out of the eyeball. It seems help is not far away. Indeed, the child passed away before reaching 1 month. So many things have happened. The Wang brothers finally realized the seriousness of the situation. Also afraid of ending the bloodline completely, he decided to send the coffin from the attic away. On the day of Lao San's child's burial, the 3 of them carried the old man out. He came to the old lady's side. Lao San couldn't bear the blow, left without a word, not knowing where they went. The 2nd year, Wang Leota was afraid of having an unhealthy child with the silly girl. She abandoned him and went to the neighboring village. The wife has settled in. Only the second child and this foolish girl were left in the big house. That year, at the end of the year, someone saw that silly girl happily playing with a child, but that child walks, always leaning to one side, when he turned his head to look. But I discovered that the child's left eye had no pupil. Looks very pitiful. The sins committed by the Wang family's three brothers. In the end, it fell upon their descendants as retribution. Yet that child grew up healthily. But due to physical defects, the misdeeds committed by the three Wang brothers, never married in his whole life. Every time the man eats, people keep mixing in the empty spaces beside them. It was as if a child in need of care was sitting there. This incident happened in Yantai in 2008. Lai Zongping relied on his family's background, started a real estate business locally. During those 2 years, his business was doing quite well. But by the third year, then the economic crisis occurred. Funding chain rupture, causing the business to plummet. He is overwhelmed all day long. In no time, the debt collectors came knocking at the door. He is basically out of contact. The company entrance is bustling with people every day, except for a few close relatives and friends. He also dared not contact outsiders. That day, he found his cousin Lai Ergu, said with a worried expression, "His funds are all tied up." He said he went to ask the master to change the current predicament. "You can raise a little ghost." Lai Ergu felt something was off after hearing that. This little ghost is too dangerous. Lai Zongping has risen again, not knowing. Even someone as aimless as Lai Ergu knows this. How could he not know? But he is truly at the end of his rope now. Cayenne LV is now broke, despite Lai Ergu's constant persuasion. But Lai Zongping clearly didn't listen at all. A long time after the dinner gathering, Lai Ergu never saw him again. Until we meet again. It has been 2 years since then. Lai Zongping married the daughter of the deputy mayor. The career has made a comeback. Lai Zongping was all smiles at the banquet, with a face full of composure and self-satisfaction. No longer is there that dejected appearance from before. But Lai Ergu could see through it. This kid seems to have really raised a little ghost. During mealtime, a bowl was placed on the empty seat next to Lai Zongping. He keeps stuffing vegetables inside. It looks like someone is really sitting there, a child who needs care, and looking at Lai Zongping's tightly furrowed brows. It seems that little one is not easy to handle. Perhaps his glamorous facade is all just for show. Lai Ergu didn't say anything either. After all, this is the path he chose for himself. One day long after the wedding, Lai Ergu suddenly received a call from Lai Zongping. He said there was a big incident at his home. Lai Ergu didn't slack off either. The alliance arrived at Lai Zongping's villa located in the suburbs. As soon as I pushed the door open, he was so scared that he stood frozen in place. Only saw Lai Zongping's wife, lying on the ground covered in blood, the chandelier that was supposed to hang from the ceiling. At this moment, it was deeply embedded in his stomach. Lai Zongping seemed quite frightened. At this moment, he is crouched in the corner of the room, trembling. Lai Ergu was just about to walk over. Suddenly, he saw a dark shadow fly over his head. At that moment, an antique porcelain vase displayed in the showcase. Suddenly, it struck Lai Zongping on the head. He also noticed this change. The alliance sidestepped and avoided it. But that shadow didn't seem to intend to let him go just like that. Like going crazy, running around chaotically in the room. Lai Ergu watched this terrifying scene, realizing that I am no match for this at all. Lion Meng ran over and helped Lai Zongping up, ran out without looking back. Just as he was in a panic, Lai Ergu looked back, but saw that the little dog was raised by Lai Zongping in the middle of the room. At that moment, the little creature seemed to be looking with resentful eyes, watching the two escape. Lai Ergu brought the still-shaken Lai Zongping, arrived at his residence. Lai Zongping took a long time to calm down. He talked about the process of raising a little ghost. At this moment, he truly regretted his past decisions. He said this was the most regrettable thing he had ever done in his life, and it is also his greed and selfishness. Killed his own wife. There are still unborn children. At that time, he was truly at his wits' end. Encouraged by a business friend, I found that master, holding the borrowed tens of thousands. Let him invite a little ghost to change his luck. The master also warned him at that time, talking about the life of this little thing. It was perfected by the roommate of a 1-year-old baby. The magic is very strong. Make sure to take good care. We mustn't let him turn against us. It's rather strange to say. Ever since I brought this little thing home, he not only revived, but also came back to life. Even one's own marriage is a significant event. And soon there was landing. He also married the beautiful daughter of the vice mayor, making the surrounding men envious. Good times don't last long. All this beauty was ultimately broken, since Lai Zongping's wife became pregnant. Everything has changed. The couple is sweetly affectionate every day, looking forward to the arrival of the child. Perhaps that little devil has developed feelings of jealousy. That's why the previous tragedy occurred. Lai Zongping finished speaking, already in tears. But things have come to this point. It's too late for regrets now. After that incident, Lai Zongping was taken by the police for a long investigation. Lai Ergu has not seen him again. But later I heard he developed a mental illness. After knowing he was at Suo Hospital, Lai Ergu arrived at his hospital room. At this moment, he looked exceptionally haggard. And that little thing. I don't know if anyone is still following him. The expedition team unearthed a stone dragon in the mountain. The stone dragon looked lifelike and silent, simply breathtaking. But then strange incidents began to occur frequently in the village. The people in the village finally discovered this stone dragon is not simple. This incident took place in a small village in Pingxiang City, Jiangxi. It was September. A deafening sound of beating broke the tranquility of the town. Several mountain peaks are trembling, but the people here have long since gotten used to it. In this village, there are stone mining teams blasting rocks year-round. In recent years, construction has been happening everywhere in the city, so the stones turned into something good. This village has also sensed a business opportunity. The stone quarry team was quickly established, opening the mountain to sell stone materials. One day, it is said that the quarry team fired a few rounds at the cliff as usual. After the smoke cleared, just about to step forward to tidy up the stones. But at that moment, the young man standing in front froze, stammering and unable to speak. What has exploded here? Everyone noticed his unusual reaction. They all gathered around. Only half of the stone wall that was blown up was visible. Surprisingly, an extremely strange object was revealed. It looks like a stone, but it is different from other stones. Extremely hard, the other stones have fallen down. He remained completely still. Upon closer inspection, I discovered that the surface was covered with dragon-like stone scales. And what's even more bizarre is, these scales seem to be naturally formed. Cannot see the traces of carving. The workers were all very frightened by this scene. Could it be that the dragon from the mountain has been awakened? If this provokes something that shouldn't be provoked, the people in this mountain will suffer. The captain was taken aback by these words. If something happens in the future, afraid of wolves in front and tigers behind, this job can't be done anymore. It seems that it doesn't matter what others think. Isn't it just a piece of rock? Add more explosives. Once it blows up, it's over. The boss has spoken. If something goes wrong, someone will naturally take the blame. So everyone no longer held back. Start using the wind to strike the stone dragon. I could hit it for half a day. Not a single stone chip was knocked off. In the end, they had to fire many cannons under the stone dragon, loaded with explosives. Everything is ready. The workers quickly found a place to hide, preparing to blast the mountain again. As the detonator was pressed, the mountain wall was suddenly blown apart into pieces. The entire mountain is shaking. The sound is deafening. It's noticeably bigger than usual. This thing is like an iron lantern. It probably needs to be blown open. This made the workers present feel terrified. Hiding aside, I dared not go out for a long time. Several people waited for a long time. Once again, I returned to the stone wall. You can take a closer look. A few people have completely lost their minds. Only the rock that resembled a dragon could be seen. Under such intense bombardment just now, surprisingly unscathed, there are no signs of any cracks. Now even Captain Lao Xiang couldn't understand it anymore. Muttering hesitantly to himself, "What on earth is this?" As they approached the stone dragon, "You can take a closer look. This thing is indeed made of stone. But this thing